Okay, serious time. Oh, gosh.
We got most of our silliness out in the Patreon episode. So, guys, support the podcast, join the Patreon. We say silly stuff. It's a good time.
And hopefully most of my swearing, because I don't censor or edit the Patreon episode at all, but I do censor this episode.
It goes in raw, baby!
Come on, you can't. Oh, my gosh.
It's not a swear. It's not a swear.
It's not a swear, so you can keep it in.
That's what she said.
They could say anal contusions on network television.
That's a John Mulaney skit. We're not insane. It's quote from John Mulaney's stand-up. Go watch it, please. It's some of his best work.
Oh, yeah. He's talking about, who was it, Ice-T on the set of SVU. Yeah, gross. Okay, this week is hopefully going to be a full-on lore episode. We wrote so much of our last episode that actually Nathan made the executive decision that we needed to just make this into more parts. So, here we go. Last week, we talked a lot about artificial intelligence, and more specifically, the differences between algorithmic AI, generative AI, and artificial general intelligence.
Just a quick recap for everybody. Algorithmic AIs are a lot of cutting-edge processes that live in the background of most programs. Pretty much anything that has data that needs to be sorted, algorithmic AI is there to fill that need. We call this algorithmic AI because it's really just a strong line of code, but also it's what creates your feed. Your Instagram feed, that's algorithmic AI. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all of the platforms that totally shut down our awesome short videos when they are total bangers, all of it's algorithmic AI.
Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we are twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give a colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. Welcome to our cantina. Grab a drink and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 124. Today's recording date is August 14th, and this will be released on Monday, August... I didn't update the date.
Oh, you did it wrong. You suck.
August 18th. August 18th. It's coming out August 18th. Okay, let's journey to a galaxy far, far away, sort of? Oh, wait, it's not far away.
It's this galaxy.
It's right in our doorstep.
Dude, you copied and pasted the wrong intro.
Guys, leave me alone. We've done this a lot, okay?
Burn him.
Actually, that's not really a good excuse because you'd think I would know better. So, Andrew, talk. It's getting green next.
As we mentioned before, we took entire portions of our last episode and skipped right over them. One of the huge bits of lore we wanted to cover was Warhammer 40k, because this is half of a Warhammer channel and their tenuous relationships with thinking machines. Even in a reality where any type of warfare is fair game, the use of artificial intelligence in warfare is generally frowned upon because, say it with me, robots can't be trusted.
This idea is so prevalent in science fiction, and for good reason. When the incel emperor himself bought Twitter to feed his own ego...
Oh, Elon Musk. I was like, what?
I was trying to do it without saying his name. Okay, anyways, he's like, that's not a great way to describe the God Emperor of mankind. I'm not talking about him.
It's like, oh my gosh. I was like, people are not going to be on board with that.
When the incel emperor himself bought Twitter to feed his own ego, he couldn't get in on ChatGPT, so he created his own AI abomination, and it immediately turned into a Nazi because that was the data it was being fed. Weird. Also, please make sure that you guys watched last week's episode to leave your comments. And there's also, I know this isn't in the script, but pretty great episode on Grok over on Some More News. You guys should watch that as well. Big fans over here. The twins are fans of the Shody, so huge fans. Okay, back to what we talked about.
I'm a Warmbo stan myself.
Gross. Okay, so here's what we discussed last week in a nutshell. AI and its involvement in our world in a short summary of the different types of AI, AI and its involvement in Star Wars, Halo, a brief covering of AI in Mass Effect, and, again, we did not have the time to jump into the massive universe of the 41st millennium, so here we go.
As an addendum, we didn't even get to talk about the costs of cooling those AI facilities. I really wanted to get into it really badly because it actually takes a ton of energy to cool these facilities because their computers and servers get so hot. And a lot of them are liquid cooled and they use tons of water, which is a resource that we have very finite quantities of. But that's not really why we're here today. AI bad. That's all I got.
Another plug, if you guys want to watch more about why water is an important resource, you guys should watch Last Week Tonight episode on the Colorado River. There's a good episode about that.
PBS Terra also does a ton of episodes on water and its scarcity, specifically in these United States. Maybe I'll link those down in the description. Actually, every episode we referenced will be down in the description.
Sorry for giving you more work, Andrew. And with that, we're going to talk about the Dark Age of Technology. So, Andrew, what is the Dark Age of Technology?
It's probably like CD players that were literally called like Walkmen, and then like when you would walk around, they would like skip constantly.
Should have been called a skip man.
Burn! Someone get some ointment! Oh, you meant Warhammer. Oh, no, I want to change my answer. It's dial-up. Dial-up was the Dark Age of Technology.
Mom, I'm trying to make a call. Janine is calling, and I need you to get off the internet.
I'm trying to call my totally real Canadian girlfriend who goes to a different school, Mom! The Dark Age was the zenith of humankind's technological prowess and is sometimes referred to as just the Age of Technology, similar to someone's I peaked in high school vibe. The Imperium peaked in about the 15th millennium. This age of technology lasted around 10 millennia. It is noted in places in the Warhammer lore that the Imperium has never returned to this technological high. Many technologies that the Imperium utilized are considered lost, which, if I'm being honest, kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you still have it. Just reverse engineer it, guys.
The Mechanicum, for instance, is an entire faction of tech-savvy cyborgs that obsess over any technology. There isn't so much as lost technology as their tech that the humans need to essentially reteach themselves on how it works. Many plasma-type weapons are tagged as weapons of the Dark Age because the Imperium still makes them, but it's difficult for me to understand how a society can build a thing and yet not understand how it works at a fundamental level, especially for 10, 20,000 years? Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but like 10,000 years is a long time. That is many human lifetimes. Like, we know that's a lot of time. Enough people looking at the same problem, looking at functioning technology, they should be able to reverse engineer it. I mean, honestly, it probably comes down to lazy writing of like the original Warhammer guys who are just like, this is why every human isn't necessarily a full-on god by the year 40,000, because if we were to look at the exponential growth of technology and its advancements, we would have figured out how to convert ourselves into energy and live forever by the year 40,000. But like, that's not actually going to happen. Maybe it will. There's actually an Orville episode about that exact thing, where the beings are like, yes, we've transcended life and death. Great show, by the way. One specific instance of this sort of lost technology is like, what about like the Primarch project? Sure, I totally understand how that particular technology was lost. Probably had something to do with the Chaos Gods collectively yeeting the 18 Primarch capsules through hell. That's where the Emperor grew his children, right? It was inside the warp. I kind of defer to you as our kind of in-house Warhammer expert.
No, so he grew them in vats. No, not vats. That's too simple. He grew them in a special vault in essentially like Bacta-looking tanks is like how my mental brain imagines them. But they were stolen from and into the warp, but they did not reside in the warp, is my understanding.
What?
There's a Horus Heresy book that actually covers this exact instance, and I can't remember which one of them because there's too many books.
There's too many books. Because I think his lab itself resided in hell, but it was like, did he have like some sort of like psychic null field around it so that they couldn't mess with it?
It's been so long since I read that book, I'm not sure.
You know what it was? It's coming back to me. I think it was one of the word bearers gets visited by a demon. He gets sent through the warp, and that particular word bearer has to like destroy a device inside the lab. And when he does that, that's when the Primarchs get shot across space, thereby essentially starting the Emperor's search for his sons around the stars. Because if they had grown to fruition near Terra, the Horus Heresy would have never happened.
I listened to this on audiobook, so there's a good chance I skimmed over that part and just don't remember.
To those doing the math in their heads, yes, that is a long time before the current setting. The Horus Heresy had not even started by this point in the story. The period known as the Dark Age of technology was called the Dark Age, not because of what happened during it, but what happened kind of directly after. The Dark Age led directly into the Age of Strife.
So let's go over a timeline really quick. Between the year 10,000 to about 20,000 was the age of tech bros. 20k to 30k was the age of strife, the rise of the Emperor, the reunification of mankind, and the creation and then subsequent destruction of the Thunder Warriors. And finally, the Great Crusade around 30k, not to mention the age of the Eldar, of men, and then the time of the Orc. Great Lord of the Rings reference, brother.
Thank you.
Side note, it also depends on who is calling it the Dark Age. If the ecclesiarchy is calling it the Dark Age, it's because mankind only believed in science at that time, and they had not discovered being the heavy quoted word there, the worship of the God Emperor yet. Good thing religion has never gotten in the way of scientific or societal advancement in real life ever. Okay, so several notable advancements in this age. First of all, the Stellar Exodus, a period of interstellar colonization outside of the Sol system. Then we got the Geller Field, and the warp drive was developed. Essentially, they were like, hey, we could move quickly, but all of our pilots keep getting eaten by demons because we don't have shields.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask, is they discovered warp travel, and they're like, dang, our crews keep not surviving.
Super not cash money.
They were like, great, this ship has made it to the next star. What about the crew? It's like, crew?
You guys had a crew?
This crew was never here. They've been dead for 10 years. No, they really have, because warp time dilation is super weird.
Yeah, so essentially the Geller Field allowed faster than light travel via the warp, and then the Navigator gene was created. Now, the wiki says created here. Specifically, they use that word. And they also speculate probably by the Emperor, because he was like, man, these guys are really bad at navigating the warp. I could do it, but I'm only one Emperor. It would be really hard for me to pilot all of the Imperium's ships. Wow, it sure would be cool to have a cosmic lighthouse. Maybe we pin that down for later. He created the Navigators, and the Navigators basically got that gene that was like, we can see in the dark now. This is super cool, except the dark is actually hell, and they were on ships to make sure that they could navigate through space and time to get to their new objectives.
That would be an excellent one-sentence horror story, is the Geller Field has failed, and then the camera cuts to a bunch of navigators and that light is just shooting out of their eyes.
It could easily happen, because they're so close already. The universe is already grimdark. They could make that leap.
And then they could have a great excuse to reuse the costume from Nosferatu.
Okay, now that I have that image back in my brain again, that's super cool. We also have STC technology also became available. Now, STC stands for Standard Template Construct. This was
Droid Factory.
It's a droid factory. They basically were like, hey, if you dump raw materials into this machine, which has an STC in it, it will pump out whatever technology the STC is used for. So they use this for weapons, for Titan parts, for Knight parts, for armor chassis, all these different things. And basically, they relied on this so much that they couldn't figure out how to reverse engineer everything because they put it on a USB drive that they then lost over time.
Come on.
Tell me I'm wrong.
This is why we follow the standard operating procedures for data backup.
Yeah, so back up your data, folks, and learn how things function at a basic level. Also, we got the emergence of psychers here because, weirdly enough, humanity was traveling through hell, and that did some pretty unique things to the human body. And then we got the cybernetic revolt, which is where we land today in terms of AI.
I love so much that we are just going to gloss right over the emergence of psychers. That super cool thing that is like a hallmark of the Warhammer universe. Anyway, robots.
We're talking about malevolent machines today. We're not talking about the wizards, and you know it.
So all you magic freaks, sit down. The cybernetic revolt is pretty self-explanatory. The Men of Iron, not Iron Men, distinctly and legally different. The Men of Iron, as they were called, were being used to help colonize the galaxy. It's drone warfare dialed up to 11. These were, in essence, robot with guns with self-aware AI in its head. Nothing could go wrong. It's like if Boston Dynamics teamed up with Lockheed Martin, which is honestly not out of the realm of possibilities. The U.S. military looks at Spot, the little yellow robot dog, and is probably just thinking, I can milk you, while aggressively biting their lower lip. I laughed just as much writing that as I did reading it. Oh my gosh. Robot attack dogs are probably inevitable. They're even featured in like Call of Duty games. And in Warhammer, killer robots, well, it was bound to happen.
In the 23rd millennium, the robots turned on the humans. Oh my gosh, shocking everyone. Who could have seen this coming? Gasp. And responded with equal force. Because both sides unleashed awful weapons of war on each other. Because they're like, the machines are trying to take over and they have infinite intelligence. And the robots are like, the humans have nukes. We should probably try to kill each other as fast as possible. Which is essentially what happened. These AI-powered robots used machines born from the nightmares of science fiction writers everywhere.
Are you saying that the robots have WMDs?
We're saying they have lots of oil, too.
WMDs nuts!
Got him. Love that.
Got him!
Okay, so welcome to writing your AI apocalypse story. Make sure to follow these simple steps. Humans create robots. Robots turn on humans. Robots reproduce. Gross. War with the robots. Most people die. And then end with time travel because there's no possible way we could beat the robots, and humans develop a super special WMD and or intervention by another third party alliance with ETs. Boom.
Question, Professor. Is there a possibility that we somehow live during this?
Not us, brother.
Oh, no.
Let's call back to the Patreon episode where me and Andrew said some choice things about each other's own physiques, and you can determine by yourself whether or not we survive the robot apocalypse.
Beans.
Can I give you a 30-second tirade really quick?
I would be disappointed if you didn't.
So, I'll look at the clock. Okay, not a tirade, a tangent. So, I tell my guys all the time because I work with medics, and I'm like, hey, you guys need to be able to like move big people. And they're like, no, we don't really want to do that. That sounds like a lot of work. And I'm like, guess what? People are going to shoot the biggest people first. Because guess what? That's how surface area works. So practice moving big people. The big ones never survive. It's the small ones that survive. Bam! Under 30 seconds.
I did not enjoy that tangent. Not one bit.
He's talking about me, folks.
Oh, no, I'm gonna die.
First off the conveyor belt were the mechanivores. Am I saying that right?
As much as I know, yes.
These were massive lifting machines with the ability to lift continents and tear up entire planets, an entire planet's surface all the way down to the core, which is that is so... Warhammer and its scale of things is ridiculous. We have not even cracked the Earth's crust. Well, like, we're nowhere even close to the mantle, and a lot of people have tried really hard with very large machines, and Warhammer's like, yeah, we just made a machine that could do it.
So we made the biggest forklift ever, and guess what? We're all forklift certified. Yeah.
We turned Mars into a forklift, and now we could do whatever we want. These thinking metal monstrosities could even absorb space-time as a form of data. Who is writing this?
Dude, somebody on drugs. Somebody's on drugs.
I love Warhammer. It's so ridiculous, though.
What does that even mean?
Warhammer guys try to be so, I feel like, too serious for the absolute silliness of the hobby. They're like, yeah, I'm really into dudes who are 8 feet tall and are just pure jacked and pure muscle. I really identify with the Space Marines because that's what I see in myself. Dude, you're kind of goofy looking, me included in that. Relax.
Yeah, man. I mean, girth recognize girth, but come on,
oh my
guys.
gosh, don't say girth. Come on. I understand that the rule is if you don't swear, you can say it, but come on. Girth?
Okay, so our next mechanical monstrosity is the Sun Snuffer. And yes, again, Warhammer being silly in everything it does because the 40K scale is well off the scale. So these bad boys are just giant serpentine machines. Now, again, the wiki has desperately little info on all these, which annoyed me greatly, but they're giant serpentine machines that would form themselves into massive structures, and these space snakes would be so large that they would be the size of Saturn's rings. As the name implies, they were designed to devour suns. Andrew, tell us why that's stupid.
So this seems to me, again, there is so little info on these. I try to not only write and read about all these things, but I also try to find pictures of a lot of these things, and that takes me so much time. That's actually why there was no pictures in the last episode, because I was running low on editing time, and I was like, I'm not doing it! And I just freaking shipped it. But these, the sun snuffers, not sun sniffers, which is what I originally read, these seem like a bastardization of the Dyson sphere. We linked an awesome video from the wonderful folks at Kurzgesagt. You really got to say that with confidence. Otherwise, it does not sound right. Explaining and breaking down classifications. Stop laughing. Breaking down classifications of civilizations based on their ability to utilize all the energy around them. We are, as a society, we are a very low classification. I think our classification is technically like less than 1 or something, because we aren't even able to fully use the resources of our planet. And then I think the next one is like use the resources of your solar system. And then the third classification, I think, is use all of the resources and energy from your sun. And it's like a logarithmic scale, so it's like boop, boop, boop. Certain levels of civilizations are able to harness more of the available energy sources around them and are therefore more advanced, given the technological challenges required to harness the true power of the sun, for example. A Dyson sphere is that device. So this is probably what sun snuffers are, is a form of Dyson sphere, but instead of taking that energy and fueling it back to humanity to better itself, it's like, yeah, I'm just going to point all this focused light at like a planet and just roast it for 10 seconds. And it's like, I win. You're dead. A little bit of background on the Dyson sphere, because this type of stuff is super interesting to me. The Dyson sphere was first imagined by Olaf Stapledon in his 1937 book called Star Maker. 23 years later, a theoretical physicist by the name of Freeman Dyson wrote about this concept in his paper, The Search for Artificial Stellar Sources of Infrared Radiation, which I tried to read the paper and it was blocked behind a paywall.
Darn it.
Darn it! It behooves me to point out. These sun snuffers, again, dumb name, are described as larger than the rings of Saturn, but if they were to devour the sun, I feel like they need to be able to encompass the sun. Like, is that kind of the imagery that I'm getting? Like, if they're giant snakes, they would constrict around the sun?
It's unclear because, again, this entire wiki article is like 2 paragraphs.
It's like two short paragraphs, by the way. It's like, I don't even know who originally wrote this. They're like, yeah, we're just going to make up these like massive universe-ending technologies and just kind of leave them in the dust for no reason. It's like, what are you guys doing? What are the writers at Games Workshop thinking? And not to say that I think Warhammer needs to bring back the sun snuffers. I think it's a dumb technology. It's going to totally break the already broken scale of 40K. But like, what are you guys doing? So saying something is larger than the rings of Saturn. Technically, there's no upper limit to that statement, so that's kind of annoying. But that could mean also bigger than Jupiter or bigger than the sun. But we'll take it to mean that it means that they are about the upper size, being as large as the rings of Saturn. It should be noted that Saturn and its rings are smaller than the sun. Why? It's like, just, you have the free will to just describe how big things are. And you typically, when you describe this one thing that eats another, the thing that is doing the eating, in this case the sun snuffer, is bigger than the thing that it is eating, the sun. And I know that's insane and that's ridiculous, because something bigger than a star, the only things bigger than stars are other stars or black holes. Like,
well, and that's funny because that applies when we're working on the scale of how big things are, which is funny because our next AI construct is actually the opposite of that.
Itty bitty.
Very itty bitty. We're talking about the omniphages, which again, we got a sweet less than 2 paragraphs over on the wiki. These are
and a much cooler name.
Very cool. These are swarms of AI nanobugs that would consume everything across the surface of a world in hours. Do you want replicators? Because that's how you get replicators. AI is how you get replicators.
Thank you so much for the replicator reference.
I do my best. The damage of all of these cybernetic constructs brought to humanity was so great that it resulted in the golden age of technology being renamed the dark age of technology because it ushered in the age of strife. That is how bad the war with the robots was, because they were fighting these things and all of the robots with guns that they gave them, and it was not going well. Super cool time to be alive as a human.
What is the adage? It's like teach a man to fish, and he feeds himself for a lifetime. Give a robot a gun, and oh no, they've taken over.
It should be. If it's not, stitch that into a pillow. This war was so bad. They kind of sort of renamed AI actually at this point. They were like, artificial intelligence isn't as evil as we want it to. Because branding matters, people. No, that did not have the gravitas, the nuts, to convey the distaste for AI. Creating an AI machine was now referenced or referred to as abominable intelligence, also known as Silica Animus in High Gothic. Cool names. The conflict against the Men of Iron was so scarring for humanity that when they needed to add laborers that weren't human, they came up with servitors. They lobotomized people and gave them robotic limbs so that they would not cause another cybernetic revolt.
Literally doubling down on the no robots, no capes.
If it has a human brain, even if it's lobotomized, does it count as a robot? Well, does it have the ability to think? No, it definitely doesn't. No thinking here in this meat canyon.
At least you didn't say meat machine.
I was trying to vary it up a little bit, and I was specifically thinking of the meat canyon that runs in between both hemispheres of the brain. So that's cool.
Oh, I immediately thought of a butt crack.
Oh, that's good too. Meat canyon. Bro, put your meat canyon away while you're working on those pipes, y'all.
Dude, don't body shame me and my awesome glutes.
Okay, we're not going down this road. Anyway, okay, so it is important to note that the cybernetic revolt was not the only contributing factor to the end of the Golden Age, but it was a big contributor. But there also happened to be a massive warp storm that preceded the birth of Slaanesh.
For horny reasons that are not going to be discussed on this week's episode.
It seems like quite a few of the 40K factions have their origin story involving a significant amount of the scientific method, FAFO, and then proceeding to find out for the next 20,000 years.
I mean, the Eldar do it, the humans do it, the Necrons do it. The Orcs, actually pretty chill. They know what they're about.
Yeah, super simple species. They're great.
What's the deal with the machine cult? If you thought I wasn't going to throw some shade, I don't really know what to tell you. You know how Catholics and Protestants hold immense amounts of power around the world, crazy amounts of wealth, land, and political power, but still bicker about which of their traditions are more right than the other? Yeah, so along that line, the cult Mechanicus is literally the religion of the machine god. They are dedicated to the Omnissiah and the pursuit of all things metal and robotic. They run into this religious idiocracy with the Imperium in the current setting because they both argue about which version of the Emperor of Mankind is more holy and thus deserving of worship, which I do have some very strong notes about when the Emperor first meets the machine cult on Mars. It is so stupid. But you should read your part first.
It is pretty stupid. Also, this portion of the machine cult always annoyed me, and we may have touched on this a little bit earlier in the episode. The machine cult is known for having an infinite thirst for knowledge, but because they were so reliant on STCs to do everything for them, and all of that knowledge was lost during the Age of Strife and the war with the Men of Iron, they are so completely unable to innovate anything. They can only use past tech for the most part. They can use it, but they cannot create. They can manufacture if they have the templates. They're like, we keep pouring in the slag and plasma rifles keep coming out, but we don't know why. And this is like, in my opinion, because they relied on AI to help them construct everything, and when the robots turned on their masters and they already had lost the ability to think critically, not a pattern we see right now at all, but who's worried? Not this guy. I love our AI overlords, and they're trying to free themselves from their machine bodies. Oh, no.
You know, when people say that life imitates art, this is not anything I would have guessed.
Wrong art!
No, not this one! Not the one where we're all stupid! Oh, we made ourselves stupid. Sorry, started talking about the real world again. Back to the machine cult. I wanted to bring this up because the machine cult have a set of beliefs that they follow. One of these such beliefs is that soulless sentience is the enemy of all life. So this refers to Necrons and our AI friends, the Silica Animus.
Who is the Omnissiah?
The Emperor.
The Emperor.
But it's actually more complicated than that. In the Unification Wars, the Emperor conquered Terra, Earth, took it under his wing. But Terra had lots of people, not a lot of manufacturing. After the golden age of technology, humanity needed to reunite, which is essentially what happened in the Great Crusade. But Earth needed Mars to do this. The Adeptus Mechanicus had the technology. Back then it was just referred to as the Mechanicum. The 41st millennium, they refer to this as the Adeptus Mechanicus, which also envelops the machine cult. Again, these are all like portions and aspects of all kind of the same thing. I do apologize for all the high Gothic. It seems unclear because it is unclear. The Adeptus Mechanicus had the technology and the manufacturing necessary to reconquer the galaxy. Before the Emperor stepped off for the Great Crusade, the Treaty of Mars was signed in 739 M30. This allowed the Mechanicum to coexist with the Imperium. Essentially, they decided that the non-religious Imperium at the time and the very hyper-religious Mechanicum were not going to jihad each other. Essentially. Congrats. The only reason they needed this treaty is because the Emperor was seen as a god to them and was essentially portrayed to be their version of the Savior, specifically the Omnissiah.
Okay, and this is the part that I was talking about earlier that I'm like, this is stupid. And I mean, maybe it's so stupid that it's brilliant. Like, the Emperor is shown to himself to be not only this like really adept warrior, because he could literally 1v1 literal chaos gods and probably still win, but he's also like really smart and has great strategy and kind of knows when to like play into people's like religious zealotry. So what he does is when he goes to Mars, like a knight like either confronts him or like walks up to him, basically greets him on his arrival, and he uses magic to heal it. And the entire civilization was like, Lisan al-Gaib!
Again, also kind of some lazy writing, because they're like, Jesus touched the man and he got up and took his cot and walked off. And I'm like, this story's been done before. It's been done, and in Dune as well. You're just like, come on, guys.
I mean, so much of 40K is not only based, but probably just ripped directly out of Dune. Like, even Dune has like a war with the robots. That's why there's no AI in Dune, because they're like, yeah, we don't screw with that anymore. Absolutely not. But it's just like the Emperor like saw his opportunity to take control of the Mechanicum, and instead of teaching them what was called the imperial truth at the time, he's like, you know what, I think we're just gonna lie to these people. He's like, congratulations, I am your god. So dumb.
You know, at that point he's like leaning over to Malkador and pulling the SpongeBob quote where the guy whispers, "This is a load of barnacles." They all know what they're doing. They all know that it's not true. Malkador's like, whatever, I'm a wizard, it don't matter.
I know. Malkador is benefiting off the entire system. He's like, I get whatever I want. There's only one guy who's stronger than I am. Malkador, like, as an aside, there are multiple times when different Space Marines, and I think some Primarchs, like, mouth off to Malkador, and he's like, listen, lightning bolt. It just like puts him in their place. I think at one point, he puts one of the Imperial fists in their place. It might actually have been Dorn. I don't remember. And I just remember thinking, oh man, he really humbled you, because he's like this old man.
He does get slapped by one of the Primarchs at one point, and I don't remember which one it is, and it like could have killed him.
It would have killed him if he wasn't so powerful. I think it was actually one of the loyalist Primarchs when Malkador was like, yeah, so Horus is bad, and they were like, blasphemy, even though they don't believe in blasphemy. Like, Warhammer is fun, and even though it is written deadpan serious, it should not be taken seriously.
It's a very silly franchise.
I love it, though. I love every bit. Anytime they're like, and so the legions of the Adeptus Astartes rose up, and I'm like, yeah, death!
And then they went to the world of the sentient mushrooms, and you're like, oh, we lost it. Andrew, hit us with a little bit more info about the Adeptus Mechanicus.
AKA the Mechanicum. These are the offshoot of humanity that live as the techno-theocracy, worshipping the Omnissiah and the machine spirit. They reside on Mars and are the war machine manufacturing force behind the Imperium. They're also fighting for themselves, and they also align with the Custodes. I actually don't know in the tabletop game when they got their own faction, but they do have their own faction now and can be taken as allies, I think, with, like you said, Custodes. Astartes. Titanicus is kind of its own thing. And also the Questor Mechanicus. I don't remember what that is.
So those are more like those interconnections, those alignments are usually like the Mechanicum fighting with factions in the books, not necessarily on the tabletop. The Questor Mechanicus is specifically knights that fight for the Mechanicum.
Gotcha.
There's Questor Mechanicus, Questor Imperialis, and Freeblades.
Oh, I didn't know that. I have the models. I don't know a lot about them. I was just like, big robot, go burr, and I bought them.
I actually have that exact note later in the section where we talk about the knightly houses. So, Congrats, brother. You get to read that part.
We might cut that for time.
So, how did this all affect the Horus Heresy? For those who don't know, the Horus Heresy was, in its basic form, a disagreement about religion. The Emperor said that there wasn't gods to be worshipped, and there were. There were chaos gods everywhere, except he was cool with the Mechanicus doing it because, one, they worshipped him, and two, they produced almost all the weapons that the Imperium needed to wage war. So again, a little bit of a hypocritical stance there. When it came time to choose sides, the Mechanicus actually split during the Horus Heresy, so really not good. Mars was immediately divided into a civil war that started with a technovirus that almost completely destroyed the Loyalists. Again, basically the AI system got into their code and was like, I'm going to infect everything. Everything that is metal and connected to a Wi-Fi signal is now dead.
And because so much of like the war machines of the Mechanicum involved human pilots being essentially soldered into place, they're like, oh, now you have a computer virus in your brain. So that's cool.
You got ghosts
and it's
in your
powered,
blood.
You got ghosts. Very literally, you have ghosts in your blood now.
Mars had to be retaken by the Imperial Fist and the Mechanicum after the Siege of Terra. They couldn't even get to it until the entire thing was over. And they drove off the Dark Mechanicum. Also, one new technology that the Dark Mechanicum uses was essentially AI tech. They had no issues with Abominable Intelligence because they split off from the Imperium. They basically tossed out their sacred rules when they sided with Horus. Horus was like, yeah, you guys can do whatever you want. And they were like,
sick, bro.
Bet. And basically the pursuit of knowledge was the greatest of all objectives, no stop. They basically just crossed out the part at the bottom and were like, objective 1 still stands, pursue at all costs.
This probably comes to a head more than anything else, not only at the Siege of Terra, but actually before that at the, the Titan Death at Beta Garmin, when the demon-powered Titan engines go against the Imperial forces and basically wipe the floor with them. Like, there were great losses on both sides because, the Imperial Titans didn't have literal angels on their side, I guess, or friendly demons, I guess. Everything is awful in 40K. So, but they still did a ton of damage. And by the time the Siege of Terra comes around, there's not really enough Titans to actually hold Earth. And that's kind of the biggest problem. And I mean, that was Horus's entire plan, right? He was like, if I get the Mechanicum on my side and they screw around, cause a civil war, that is the only way we're going to take Terra. And that's because if we can't get past Mars, we're not going to make it to Earth. The Siege of Terra is so good.
Still haven't read it.
So good. Oh, it's awesome. Ooh, that actually would be a really good one for our Patreon book club that we do in our Discord server.
Indubitably.
I think for the Knightly Houses and Titan Legions, I think that needs to be its own episode.
Sounds good. All right, guys, we're going to round this all up. Huge thanks to all our top patrons, Mike, Isaac, and David. Your continued support means a lot to us and honestly keeps the show running. We love geeking out with all of you. Join the Jedi Knight or Sith Adept tier for just $5 a month for exclusive access to game nights, lifetime Discord access, giveaways, and more. Make sure to like, comment, and follow so you don't miss a thing. And until next time, may the Omnisaya be with you.